everyone. Welcome to Spill the Tea in 10. I am here with you today with what is going to substitute for my tea today. I got iced coffee because I was feeling it. How about you? Let me know what you're bringing to the party today. And we only got 10 minutes, so let's get started. My name is Devin, and I am the teacher, author, and creator behind La Libre Language Learning. And I serve French and Spanish teachers, as well as all world language teachers who are looking to make their journey to proficiency a lot more practical. So let's get right to it. This is Spill the Tea in 10 minutes, which is a rapid fire style question and answer session where I take the questions that you have about what it means to teach for proficiency and how you can make that journey a little bit easier for you. And this is one way that we're doing it. We're doing 10-minute bite-sized questions. So let's get into today's topic. I'm so excited about this one because at the time of this recording, and let me check and make sure we're good on the time here. All right. So I know exactly when we will be at 10 minutes, that we're right before back to school. For those of you who are in about the same back to school style that I am at, I'm in the southeast of the United States. And so we're going back to school in a week. So it's coming up. I'm sure all of y'all who are in that same boat are starting to plan your first day lessons. And for some of you, it's going to be a few weeks out. So just hang on to this idea until it is time for you and enjoy the rest of your summer. But if you have first day plans top of mind, let's talk about what that environment looks like. Let me check in here and just make sure that everything is transmitting okay. All right, we're good. So as you're coming in, let me know where you're watching from and what bev you're enjoying today. What bev you got with you. Today I got iced coffee. What do you got? All right, are you ready? Okay, the age-old question. For your first day lesson plan, when you have your fresh-eyed students coming into your room for back to school, how much target language should you use on day one? Oh, this is a question that everybody will give you a slightly different answer to, although there is a pretty standard one. And the pretty standard one in the world of proficiency, and I will, of course, state from the resources that I have found and the ones that I follow, is that the more target language you use, the better. Why? Because you're setting students up for the expectation that this is a target language environment. And to give you a nice diversity of opinions, check out the target language series, 90% target language series on my YouTube channel, where several brilliant other teachers talk about what they do in the first few weeks of school, as well as throughout the year, to incorporate more target language use in their classrooms to establish that environment, that almost immersive environment, and for some teachers, very immersive environment of 90% target language. The dog agrees. Sorry if you hear in the background. We got to keep rolling. So that series is going to show you a couple different points of view on what it looks like to start right from the jump, right out the gate, with a ton of target language, 90% or even 100%. So I would check that out if you want to see what different examples of this could look like and how you can structure it. But I want to give you a slightly different opinion on the more is better approach for target language, because I think that we're asking the wrong question here for how much target language should we be using. The real question is, what's the most important thing to do on the first day? So answer that one for yourself, because that's honestly going to be different for every single environment that you are in. In certain environments, your answer on the first day of school is going to be taking care of logistics. I've been in several different, I'm no longer in the classroom, but in several different first days that I've had at school, it was the only word that comes to me is a you know what show. There were things that were all over the place, students coming in and out of the room, trying to just figure out where they are. I mean, put yourself in their shoes. If I used to teach high school, if you are for the first time coming to a high school of 2,000, 3,000 people. You have a fresh schedule in your hand and you have no idea how to read it. And then you have a teacher speaking French to you at the door. That's alarming. Frankly, it's alarming. So if that's the environment that we're setting up on the first day, like relationship cut off. However, let's take a stroll, maybe across the street to a middle school environment where you had the student for sixth grade exploratory and it's seventh grade and they're coming back to your room after a summer off and they are expecting to see you. They know that you're the French teacher and they cannot wait to jump back into that subject. And then if you greet them in English, déçu, they're going to be really disappointed. So what is the expectation and the relationship that you want to set up with your students from day one? And how can you utilize target language to do that? With my freshmen that I'd never met before, and they were a tiny, tiny fish in a very large sea, my approach to target language and making sure that you are working the two important balances of, hey, this is a French class. We're going to speak a butt ton of French, was that the intro into class was bonjour, bienvenue, have a seat. Your stuff's on the board. You have an activity waiting for you. It was like oh yeah, that's the French teacher. Those are some French words. And everything is set up for them. Like they've got something on their desk. They've got an activity waiting for them. And of course, you know, if it's like fourth period or sixth period or something like that, then you've got something easy, like something on the board that you don't have to necessarily put on their desks, but you've got an easy transition where they're coming right into the room and they know right off the bat, you've got everything under control. They've got something to do. They don't have to stress about the 10-minute anxiety of, like, where am I going to sit? Am I in the right room? Like, like all of that stuff is just taken care of right off the bat with those two sentences. Bonjour, bienvenue. Your seat chart is over there. And this is the activity you're doing. I'll be with you in a few minutes. And then guess what? The slew of students that guidance sends your way late to class, inevitably, because it's the first day of school, right? Everybody's trying to get their bearings. You don't have to worry about any of that. Then I would start introducing the idea of, hey, this is a French class. Are you guys ready to like try some French now? Like, let's do some French. And we would do a simple game with colors. Like I would teach them a game in French and use a bunch of pictures and examples. And we would play a game right off the bat before we did anything. It's called Blanc, and I'll put the blog post underneath here so that you can see how to play it. But the only words that they need to know in order to play, and you can do it in Spanish as well, because I used to do it with my Spanish 2 class as well, is, like touch the floor and 5 colors. And guess what? It was still an immersive experience of 30 minutes of speaking Spanish and speaking French. That is a way that you can use a lot of target language on the first day without setting off a bunch of alarm bells. Another way that you can do it is through a song, like a simple song that works for them. I'm sorry, y'all, there must be someone at the door. I'm just gonna have to roll through it. You could do a simple song or something along those lines. And some other things to keep in mind as well is if you've got different levels that you're working with, maybe you've got levels 3 and 4 and 5, then you can do really cool communicative skills on the first day, like try out an activity where they can't talk to each other at all, but have to accomplish a task. Something that comes to mind is from 2021, Practical and Comprehensible. Maria Jernigan talked about this from Redshift Education, talked about this really cool activity that she used to do in her 100% target language classroom, where she asked the students, just by gesturing to each other, put yourselves in height order from shortest to tallest. And you can't speak to each other, so you have to use just your communication skills, everything but speaking, in order to make it happen. And then she would talk to them about, how did it feel? What was that like? And what kind of skills did you have to pull and use in order to communicate with each other and achieve a task? Hey, guess what? Those are the same things that you need in a world language classroom. Now let's try it with a little bit of Spanish. So my answer to the question, how much target language is enough on the first day? How much target language is too much on the first day? I would say that for you, in summary, to round up our 10-minute discussion here, is it's going to vary greatly depending on which environment you're working with, how much logistics needs to happen on the first day of school for your students. Like if you're teaching a senior class of 18-year-olds and they're coming to Spanish 2 or Spanish 4, your day one might look really different, and you probably can just skip the whole syllabus thing altogether, right? If you're working with third graders and they're so excited to be there, but you need to establish a routine of calm first, then routine's going to be your number one focus, not necessarily target language. And you can always get to the target language part later. Hint, check out the video series that I'm about to post after this video is done. Angie Torrey has a really, really good idea for you about how she, quote unquote, used to convince her high school students that we're going to work 2 weeks up until we get to 100% target language. Like there's many different ways that you can do it. And my friend Jade Green from La Secundaria also does a really cool, we're going to do a 2-week high frequency verb unit before we jump into a ton of immersive target language environment skills. My personal way of doing it is I would do a couple games on the first day to like loosen up the atmosphere and get people really confident, even though they were only using like 5 words. And then I would jump into, kind of similar to what Berta Delgadillo does, a proficiency, here's how proficiency works unit, so that they understood the why before we did the, okay, let's do it, before we did the execution. There's many different ways that you can go about this. So if you're feeling really stressed about how much target language you should be using on the first day of class and pressure to do a lot on the first day in order to set up that environment right away, know that you have a lot of options that range from only using a little bit of target language that first day just to like give them a little taste and make sure that you're taking care of relationships and logistics and them being comfortable with school, because you know there's a lot of baggage that comes along with that on the first day of school, to, all right, let's do this. Let's set up a 100% environment. I'm ready for that this year, and I want to bring my students along with me on that journey. It's going to depend on your environment and your goals, as well as don't forget about what's feasible for you this year and what feels good to you. I'm so excited for you and for your first day, and I hope that this helps you to decide your priorities and give you some ideas for all of this here. Let me know, which one do you feel like you're going to shoot for in your classes? So, for example, if you're doing Spanish 2s, what are you going to be going for as you're watching here? Put it in the comments below and let me know. Are you going to go for, I want to set up a really solid target language environment like Sherry from World Language Cafe does, where she shows them that this is an immersive environment and we only speak Spanish in here, and I'm going to show them how to do that? Or are you going to lean more towards the, I want to take care of logistics and relationships and slowly lean into it for a few days? Which one are you leaning towards? Let me know. Put it in the comments. I can't wait to see it. And I will also put those 2 links that I mentioned below here. How to play that game that I talked about. You'll see it for French and Spanish. I'll put it there in a minute. And then I'll also link to that video series on target language use so that you can see a lot of different versions of how this could look in your classroom. And that's it. That's spilling the tea in 10. Did we do it? Did we do 10 minutes? Spilling the tea in 13 today. You got some bonus time. Thank you so much for joining me today. And I hope that you learned a lot and that you have some quick takeaways. We're going to do this again. Same time, same place next Wednesday. I'll see you then. All right. Au revoir. Ciao. Adios. Where's my button? Where's my thing? All right. Bye, y'all. Have a great week. See you next time.